The case shocked the Montgomery County and Fort Campbell communities. A 911 call had sent first responders to this home in Clarksville. That's where police say they found one of Chris Conway's twin daughters deceased.
Welcome back, and thanks for being here. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. If you haven't checked out A Wicked World on Patreon yet, and you want to have access to over 50 exclusive videos with new ones being added each month, then make sure you do that using the link in the description box below. Now, the story I have for you today is about an 8-month-old little girl who was discovered dead in her crib one morning. At first, it looked like just a terrible accident, but then her father's horrific confession changed all of that. This is the story of Adeline Conway. Adeline Michelle Conway was born on February 20th, 2017, alongside her twin sister Caroline, to their parents Chris and Emily Conway. The girls had been born prematurely at only 33 weeks, and they spent 6 weeks in incubators in the newborn intensive care unit before they were finally able to go home to Clarksville, Tennessee. During their time at the hospital, Adeline and Caroline's parents, Chris and Emily, visited them every single day. Now, Chris and Emily had gotten married just months after they graduated high school in December of 2014. Not long after that, Chris decided to follow in the footsteps of his father and brother, who served their country, and so he joined the U.S. Army in the summer of 2015. He then went on to complete his combat medic training in the spring of 2016. And from there, he along with Emily were stationed in Fort Campbell, Tennessee. The young couple had then planned a pregnancy shortly after moving into their new home. And when they found out that Emily was pregnant with not just one, but 2 babies, they were absolutely thrilled. After they'd spent 6 weeks in the hospital, the baby girls finally came home at the beginning of April 2017. Since they'd been born early, Adeline and her sister still required special medical attention for their head tilts, postures, and muscle weakness. This included them wearing tiny pink helmets to help mold their heads, as well as frequent doctor trips. But soon, the girls were thriving, and it was clear that they were loved. At the beginning of November 2017, Emily, Chris, and the babies went on a weekend family trip together to the Great Smoky Mountains. Adeline, whose motor skills were developing a little quicker than her sister Caroline's were, had just started crawling and grabbing at things. Little did the family know that this trip would be one of the last times that they would be all together and happy. Because just days later, on his first day back to work after the long weekend on November 14th, 2017, Chris woke up early around 4 a.m. to get ready for work. His wife Emily also woke up around the same time, and she prepared breakfast for Chris. He then left the house and reported into his station at Fort Campbell at 4:30 that morning. Emily would then relax for a little bit before it was time to wake up Adeline and her sister. The mother fixed them some formula and went into their room around 7 o'clock that morning. That's when she made a horrific discovery. Little Adeline was lying on her side in the crib, motionless, and she had the cord from a nearby dehumidifier tangled around her neck and arm. Immediately, Emily grabbed the phone and dialed 911. At the same time, she began performing CPR on her daughter. When the paramedics arrived, they took over before then rushing the 8-month-old to Tenova Healthcare. But sadly, within an hour, she would be pronounced dead. While she'd been waiting on the ambulance to arrive, Emily had also contacted her husband, Chris, and told him what was going on, and he had then rushed to the hospital himself. But almost as soon as he got there, a detective would inform Chris that he was needed down at the station for questioning. His wife had also been taken straight from her home down to the police station. And Adeline's twin sister, Caroline, had been removed from her parents' care and temporarily placed into the custody of Child Protective Services. Authorities had been called in after the little girl's death seemed suspicious to medical staff, who said that they thought they saw signs of sexual trauma on Adeline. There was additionally several hairs that were found in the baby's diaper that were believed to be pubic hair. Accordingly, both of Adeline's parents, Chris and Emily, would be questioned by detectives for some time. Over the next 20 hours, Chris would be repeatedly interrogated by detectives, asking what had happened to his daughter. While at first the father maintained that neither he nor his wife had essayed or killed Adeline, police would wear him down over time. And eventually, he would admit that he had done both of these atrocious things to his 8-month-old baby girl. He claimed that he had woken up aroused, attacked the little girl, then wrapped the cord around her neck to keep her quiet. Almost immediately after making this confession, Chris would try to recant it, but it was too late at that point. He was arrested and charged with murder and RAPE. Chris would make his $500,000 bond shortly after. But then, just 3 weeks after that, he was arrested again on what was essentially just reworded charges for the same incident. This time, he was held on a $1 million bond. Now, the thing is, Chris's confession was the only evidence that police had against him that he had done anything to his daughter Adeline. Though they also believed that he was much too calm at the time of his interrogation as well. Chris's family, however, did not believe that he had done these awful things to his own daughter. And soon they began trying to prove that he was just an innocent father who was trying to grieve for his baby and had simply been coerced into giving a confession. According to Christopher's mother, Charlotte Conway, her 22-year-old son had been pressured into confessing to Adeline's murder and RAPE only after hours of relentless questioning. Authorities, on the other hand, state that the 20 hours of interrogation that his family speaks about includes the time that Chris also spent resting and sleeping between interviews. But that's still 20 hours being left in an interrogation room, with either the officer's awful accusations that you did these horrible things to your baby, or being left alone with your own thoughts after something so devastating just happened to you and your family, which could make many people begin questioning themselves. For hours, Chris had completely denied any wrongdoing, but once he had been told over and over that he had done something to Adeline, the father finally stated, "It must have been me, but I don't remember doing it." Then it was only after further accusations and questioning that Chris would finally admit to a detective that he had woken up aroused that morning and attacked Adeline.
Come out straight out and ask you, did you wrap a cord around your daughter's neck and strangle her this morning before you left to go to work?
Absolutely not.
Okay, then who?
So, I don't know. I don't know anything. All I know is that I did not assault my daughter. I know that my wife did not do it. I know that I did not kill my daughter. And I know that my wife did not kill her daughter.
Or anything at all.
If they will definitively know, then y'all will know that I'm innocent. I think that is the most disgusting thing and absolutely something that I would not do to my daughter, and I would think that anyone who would do that is the lowest form of life.
Chris's family also said that he was not allowed to see his wife Emily or speak to her at all prior to being interrogated. He had also been told at one point that Emily had accused him of hurting their daughter and that the only way out of that room was to confess. Additionally, Chris's family stated that officers convinced him that the only way for Emily to ever see their remaining daughter, Caroline, again was if he came clean about killing Adeline. Chris's family also claims that the doctor who had done the autopsy on the 8-month-old and determined that she showed signs of SA and that her death had been a homicide had been in the company of a police officer the entire time who was steering him to make these conclusions. They believed that the medical examiner was rather biased, and so they hired their own for a second opinion. This forensic expert would later go on to make a report about his findings. This report stated that when Adeline had been brought to the emergency room, she had a circular mark around her neck. And at that time, her temperature had also been taken rectally. It was only a little while later, after doctors had stopped trying to perform life-saving efforts on Adeline, that one of the nurses noticed a bruise near her bottom. And this was why the authorities had originally been called. Additionally, the forensic expert noted that the marks on the baby girl's neck were consistent with what was typically seen in an accidental hanging or strangulation. He also found no evidence that the baby girl had been penetrated. The original autopsy report did not find any concrete evidence of SA either, as it had concluded that there was no male DNA or semen found on her. While the original autopsy did conclude that Adeline had some small anal fissures, this very likely could have been caused by the fact that the infant had just started eating solid foods and had experienced a few difficult bowel movements recently. And while there had been several small hairs found in her diaper that police originally believed were pubic hairs, it was later determined that they belonged to a dog. As I had said, there were no traces of any male DNA that were found on her, which you would usually expect to find at least a little from Chris changing her diaper or changing her clothes, but there was none. This was likely because the night prior to her death, Emily had given Adeline and Carolyn baths, then put on their diapers and clothes and put them to bed. Now, to be fair, Chris's family, who has also opened up a website trying to prove his innocence, did not post the entire original autopsy report on that website, just portions of it, as well as the medical report from the forensic expert that they hired. But keep in mind, if a baby of her age had indeed been RAPED'd, there would be very clear signs that it had happened, not just small anal fissures. She was tiny. There would have been massive amounts of tearing and blood. Usually infants that small that have something like that happen to them have to have many surgeries after to repair it. It had also been noted by authorities who were on the scene that day that multiple electrical cords were hazardously found within close reach of the crib. Therefore, it would have been easy for Adeline to grab one of these cords, wrap it around her head and neck, and then been unable to get it back off again, especially since she was wearing a helmet. Now, the district attorney who was prosecuting the case and had viewed Chris's family's website said that she saw nothing there that made her change her mind. And she believed that the website only showed people what they wanted them to see. Chris's wife Emily would file for divorce from him in January of 2018, shortly after a grand jury indicted him on his charges. She asked for her maiden name to be restored, and she cited the reason for divorce as being irreconcilable differences. And while Chris initially contested the divorce, it was finalized 18 months later. Emily also regained custody of Caroline. But it makes me wonder if she divorced him because she really believed that he killed their daughter, or if she was just trying to distance herself from him and his charges. Because if she really thought that he had done these awful things to little Adeline, would she have said that the reason for the divorce was irreconcilable differences? While prosecutors had originally made it very clear that they were going to be seeking the death penalty for Chris Conway, they instead, for some reason, decided, after delaying the trial multiple times, that they were going to give him a plea deal. So in September of 2020, Chris pled no contest to second-degree murder, and he was sentenced to just 15 years behind bars. Now, a major reason why people are given the option to plead no contest to their charges is if the prosecution knows that they don't have enough evidence to convict them during a trial. Why else would you go from wanting to seek the death penalty against someone to giving them just 15 years? It's also said that the prosecutor in this situation had previously petitioned a judge to seal the case so that nobody from the public could view all the exact details. And this request would end up being granted. But why? To hide police's serious lack of evidence against Chris? 8-month-old Adeline Conway's funeral was held in November of 2020, and she would then be buried at the Serenity Memorial Gardens in Theodore, Alabama. Well, thank you for listening to Adeline's story today. This little girl's death is incredibly tragic. It's also very tragic how her death ripped her family apart. I believe that her father Chris's only crime was not providing a safe sleep environment for his daughters. There just does not seem to be enough proof that he did any of the awful things that authorities accused him of doing. But rather, it's likely that he just made the terrible decision to confess to these crimes after hours of being persuaded by detectives to do so. What do you think about this case? Is Chris guilty of killing Adeline, or is he just guilty of being a negligent father? So, if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and turn on those notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least 3 times every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care, guys. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld. Or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.